Hi, this is Ramsey Smith. I'm Vice Chairman of SEO, Sponsors for Educational Opportunity, and I am delighted to be joined today by a very, very special person, an old friend, Mellody Hobson. So thank you, Mellody, for joining us today, and also thank you for your support of SEO.
Oh, I'm delighted to be here. And Ramsey, it is so great to see you. Ramsey and I went to college together, and we are old friends. We knew each other when, and so it's very excited to connect in this way.
All right, fantastic. So look, let's get into it. So Mellody, for the 4 or 5 people on the planet that don't know who she is by now, has just done amazing things, and among other things, she was voted one of Time's 100 most influential people in the world. And I have to say that's even in rarefied air. That's rarefied air. So congratulations. But we're going to talk today about how Mellody got there. And I think that's what's the real opportunity and lessons we can all learn from this discussion. So I'm going to first go through some of Mellody's accomplishments, and then we can dive in. So Mellody is co-CEO of Ariel Investments, which is a leading asset manager with over $15 billion in assets under management. She currently serves on the board of a number of organizations, including JP Morgan Chase and the Lucas Museum of Narrative Art. Most recently, she was elected the chairman of the Starbucks Corporation, a board that I think you've served on for quite some time already, 10 or 15 years, something like that, which is amazing. So, but it must be said that this was not Mellody's first time at that rodeo. She was previously chairman of the board of DreamWorks Animation and negotiated its acquisition by NBC Universal. She also served for many years on the board of Estee Lauder. But one of the things that I think is particularly cool, and I'm biased because we went to college together, is that there is a residential college at our alma mater, Princeton, which is going to be named Hobson College. Is that right?
That is right.
That's fantastic. So I'm hoping that one of my kids is lucky enough to call a room in your residential college home somewhere down the line.
That would be great.
All right. So I want to talk about your journey, and I'm going to divide this up into sort of 3 sections. One is sort of your early years. Then we'll talk about your years at Ariel, and then we're going to talk about your board experience. And the early years are super important because one of the key things about people that are as successful as you are is that it's not just about talent, right? It's about mindset. So would love to hear some of your story about how you developed the mindset that led you to this level of success. So in your early years, you were born in Chicago, youngest of 6 children. Went to Princeton and then started your journey. Tell us about how that journey started and what gave you this level of ambition that took you here.
I think it was circumstance that really led me to ultimately drive myself as hard as I have for so many years. In my early years, and my husband says what happens to you as a child really stays with you because you don't have any advanced reasoning skills. In my early years, I was the youngest of 6, and my mother was a single mom. And we had a very tumultuous, I'll use that word, existence, where we often found ourselves not able to make ends meet. And we would find ourselves struggling, quite frankly, with housing security, sometimes food security. Our lights would get disconnected, our phone would be turned off, our cars would be repossessed. And it created a great deal of anxiety in me as a child. And so one of the things that I was really, really committed to was controlling my own destiny and having a more secure life. And I tell people that I was desperate to understand money. And I use the word understand very intentionally. It wasn't about how much I had. It was about if I could understand it and how it worked, I could perhaps make different decisions and ultimately find myself on more solid footing. Now, I say all this, and I think it's very, very important to note because you knew me in college. I was so embarrassed by all of this. I mean, I was mortified. People who knew me in college had no idea of some of the things that happened. And it was because I could not even bring myself to reconcile myself with some of the struggle that was occurring in real time. And so I found myself yearning for this financial understanding. And so therefore, I don't think it's an accident I work in the investment business, because it really was ultimately my calling came from my circumstances.
Wow, that is amazing. It's amazing and powerful, and it's very true that those things that happen early in life can really sort of imprint all sorts of things on an individual. But the amazing thing is that you took that imprint and you turned it into something very positive for not just for you, but for your family and for many other people. So thank you for that. So one of the things that I was always super impressed by vis-a-vis you, Mellody, is that you're co-CEO of Ariel now. But prior to that, you were president of Ariel for like 20 years. And look, we're not that old. Right? So by definition, that happened pretty quickly. So what we want to talk about is, how you navigated that. How did that happen? How did you go from an intern to president? How did you navigate that? And then importantly, who helped you on that journey? Like, who were your mentors? Who were your sponsors? And what's the difference?
Well, there are so many. I mean, that question has so much in it. So I'll try to take it apart in small bits.
That's a bad habit. I'm terrible with combo questions.
If my answer is a little lengthy, I'll tell a couple of stories. Well, one,
Go.
I was an intern, and went from intern to president and then to co-CEO. When I first went to Ariel, I was 19 years old, and I was between my sophomore and junior year. And I knew nothing about the money management business or investing. I learned everything from scratch from doing. Between my junior and senior year, I worked at T. Rowe Price. And then I went back to Ariel, much to everyone's surprise. I didn't go to a big Wall Street firm, even though I had done all the interviewing there. But ultimately, one day I said, what am I doing? I could go work at the feet of this guy who's a stock picking master. And I could be close to all the action. And the firm was really small. And I said, that's where I'm going to go. So I went back to Chicago. And that was the smartest decision I ever made. Once I was there, I knew that's where I was going to be. That also took a lot of pressure off of me, because I wasn't someone constantly looking for the next thing. And I didn't believe the grass was greener on the other side of the fence. I saw this tremendous opportunity in front of me. I always thought I'd go to business school like so many of the people at SEO. But then I realized my business school is real life. I'm doing real life case studies. I don't need to go and read about things that people did. I'm doing it. So I stayed at Ariel and just really slogged through. I mean it when I say that. I worked 7 days a week for years and years. John Rogers and I would work every Saturday, every Sunday together. My treat on Saturday afternoons is I'd let myself go to a matinee. I'd always go by myself because I didn't want to coordinate anything with anyone, because my weeks were so hard that I wanted that to be my own time alone that did not take any coordination. I didn't even want to answer a question like, am I meeting you upstairs or downstairs in the movie theater? I was like, I just want to go by myself. So those early years just slogging away, but there were a couple breakthroughs. John was trying to introduce me to everyone that he knew of any influence, obviously a tremendous mentor and sponsor. He was both. And one day he called Jack Bogle, who was on the board of Princeton with him, running Vanguard Group, founder of Vanguard. And he said, I have this woman in my office I want you to meet. Now, I am sure this was not on Jack Bogle's top 10 things to do. And he's being super nice to John. And he's like, listen, I'm going to be on a train riding from New York to Philadelphia on this date at this time. You guys can come ride the train with me. So we flew from Chicago to New York, got on a train, rode it to Philadelphia, got off the train and flew back to Chicago so that I could learn from him. And it was on that train in the dining car that John, I'm 24 years old, he says, Mellody is going to be president of Ariel. I've already told our board, but they're insisting that she be 30 years old. And I'm like, 30? I'm like really pissed off. I'm like, why can't I do it now? They think she has a lot to learn. And so I want to take her around to meet people. And you're, famous in our industry. When someone tells you at 24, you're going to be president at 30, first of all, then you go, I was like laser focused. And not only did I want it, but I thought, oh my God, there's so much I could do once that happened. So I spent my first decade, literally, the sun set and rose around John. I had no kids. I had no, family, no significant other, anything. And I said, I am going to be at his beck and call, and every project he threw to me, I willingly and gleefully accepted, even when it was the worst of the worst. And I took every single experience as a learning experience. And I mean that with all of my honesty I have in my body. And I said, if I work like this now, all I'm doing is freedom is never free. I'm buying freedom, because later I will be able to control my own destiny. Later, I will have the opportunity to develop the timeline or whatever it is. But right now, I'm going to devote myself to this and this learning experience, knowing that there is a pot of gold, literally and figuratively, at the end of this rainbow. And if I stay very, very focused and open to learning, and most importantly, focused on not the title, but doing excellent work, I will win. And so will Ariel.
Yeah. So, wow, there's so much to unpack there. So let me start with the first thing is like, I think it's so important. If everybody listening to this walks away with one thing, like walk away with this one concept, which is respect the journey, right? There are lots of people that will have heard about you later in life and say, oh, Melody's chairman of a certain board or was appointed to this, and what they will only see that and they'll say, well, gee, how did she get there? What they don't know is that it's the result of a decision you made back in college, and you're staying laser focused on that whole way through. It is earned. It is earned in an absolutely amazing way. So that is an amazing story. Thank you for sharing that. The journey really matters. And the other thing that's interesting in that, Mellody, is this idea that what you described about your career parallels good investment strategy, right? You squirrel away money, or you squirrel away experience, right? The biggest problem in personal finance is this thing called hyperbolic discounting. People put too much weight on today versus tomorrow. You did the other thing. You put all those eggs down the road, and it's paying off because of something you did way back when. So anyway, enough of me talking. I just think that's a fantastic story and a fantastic example, and I hope that's what people take away from this more than anything else is that amazing journey. So, all right. So now, Ariel, you're decades in, and what would you like to see Ariel accomplish in the coming 10 years? What's the future of Ariel?
Wow, I'm so excited about this phase of our firm's life. We're 38 years old. And when I became co-CEO in the summer of 2019, I called my era Ariel 2.0. And I say that to my team all the time inside. 1.0 was phenomenal, and we built a really great foundation, but 2.0 is where I put a bit more of my stamp on the organization. And of course, I've been there for a long time. It's 30 years of my life. But this phase of what we're thinking about with 2.0 is really thinking about the legacy of this company in terms of how important it is to our industry. And we can demonstrate to people, not only in terms of investment success, which is the price of admission. You can't do anything unless you can put the points on the board. And we understand that. And that's what we wake up to do every single day, is to add value to our customers' portfolios. That's our job. But also to show them we can do it with a different group of people, that we've built this diverse organization that doesn't look like anything else, and that we can do it in such a way that we can have a mind's eye towards making the world a better place. We're investing in people with this bold idea that we can help them transform their lives, just like me discovering the investment business transformed mine. Not only opening up my eyes to the possibilities, understanding how to make money work for me, but also really expanding my horizons in every way and understanding all of the businesses that are out there and all of the possibilities for careers and the like. So at Ariel 2.0, not only will we continue to hone our craft around stock picking, we've also started a new division of our firm called Ariel Investments during the pandemic. I said, I want to slingshot out of this pandemic. I don't want to limp out. I don't want to crawl out. I don't want to walk out. I want to slingshot out. I told everyone in my office, we are slingshotting out of this period. So hang on. And the slingshotting out is around really aligning as a team, really making sure our foundation is extraordinarily strong. Howard Schultz always used to tell me, you can't build a skyscraper on a poor foundation. I'm not necessarily trying to build a skyscraper, but I want to build a sturdy institution that will stand the test of time. And so Ariel Alternatives is the next form of what Ariel Investments will be. And we're really excited about this new initiative called Project Black, where we're seeking to scale sustainable minority-owned businesses by bringing together capital and customers and ultimately creating what we hope will be minority businesses that are tier one suppliers for Fortune 500 companies. And we're all about scale. So this is not tiny businesses. These are businesses between $100 million in revenue and $1 billion that we're targeting in terms of our investment in a long-dated fund. So we're really, really excited about the opportunities that we have. And really, I'm most excited about the people that have come together inside of our firm that are aligned around our mission to, as we say in our community, represent.
That is fantastic. So again, another message that we hope that everybody walks away from this discussion is thinking big. So Mellody, you've always thought big, and you continue to think big. So it's many great things to come. All right, so speaking of big things, let's talk about your board work. So one of the things that is very interesting is, like, first of all, like, getting on a board, and then secondly, when one's on a board, like what are the things that you think make a successful board member? How is it different than being an operator? Like, how is that role different?
Very different. So I think the most successful board members, and the ones that I've really tried to pattern myself and study, are those who first and foremost show up and remember why they are there. They are there for the shareholder. They are representing them. Howard Schultz, again, I'm quoting him. He once told me that every meeting he was ever in, board meeting, he would sit there and in his mind, there'd be two empty chairs. And one chair would be a shareholder, and one chair would be a partner inside of our company. That's what we call our teammates at Starbucks, partners. And he said he always told himself that any conversation, anything that we discussed, we should be proud to discuss in front of both of those groups. So I use that same sort of code as I think about what the importance of my job. The other thing I bring in is, as an investor or a person who runs an investment firm, of course, I understand the Wall Street perspective, but I have constantly pushed boards that I'm in to say, would we do this if we were private? So that we don't get caught up in the Wall Street game in a way that becomes, that limits some of our long-term thinking or stifles some of our long-term thinking. And so I think that that's important. The most important thing that I think has helped me as a board member, and I really pride myself in, board members ask good questions, not perfunctory, not rhetorical, not to show you how smart I am, but can you ask a thoughtful question? I think questions are better than declamatory statements, because I think declamatory statements in board meetings make people feel defensive. And also, you're sitting around the table with all-stars. I mean, the boards that I'm on, I am like I'm the pipsqueak in my own mind. I mean, I've got Satya Nadella in one room and Jamie Dimon in another, and I had, Meg Whitman and Howard Schultz. I mean, I could go on and on. These names are like, literally, I was always like, you got to work harder and think of something smart to say. So my thing was always about a question. And also, last thing, I think the worst thing a board member can do, check the box questions, and also CIA questions. And last but not least,
say again?
CYA questions, cover your own. And then also work questions. I never ask executives to do things that I know will take a lot of time and energy unless it's really important.
Yeah. All right. That is super helpful for the many future board members that hopefully are listening to this right now. Um, let's talk a little bit about some of the tough decisions that come up, while you're working on a board. So what so the cliche thing is what keeps you up at night, but maybe a more recent example. I don't know if this matters or not, but the Suez Canal gets blocked. Is that blocking coffee beans from showing up at Starbucks, or are these sorts of things that are there? What are the major things that keep you up at night with respect to your board service?
I have to tell you, it feels different now that I'm chair of Starbucks than when I was a board member. And I don't know psychologically why that feels different to me, but it really, really does. And so the one thing you know about a global business like Starbucks that operates in 85 countries is that anything can happen anywhere. And so you can't sort of stare at the ceiling in pondering the imponderables. But what you can do is make sure you have really, really great people who have the right instincts when they need to respond to the imponderable. That's the only way that I can explain it to you. And so
Yeah.
I'm not up at night worrying about things that you might think, because I am constantly of the belief we have smart people and we will solve for it. And I felt that way at DreamWorks, and I feel that way at JP Morgan. I mean, these are best in class executives, bar none. That's why these corporations are so famous. I have had the benefit of working in the most iconic companies in the world, not even America. And they became iconic because of their leadership and because of the depth of bench that they have in those organizations in terms of the senior people beyond the famous CEOs. And so I think that gives you a great deal of comfort. With Starbucks now as chair, I just want to make sure that I am being super thoughtful as a partner with Kevin Johnson, our CEO, and that he sees me as someone who is there to help and in any way that he needs. And so I'm new, and I want to make sure that I find my way to that right collaboration that's truly helpful to the company and to him.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for that perspective. So the next element is something that's become more important, and we're already hearing your voice in a number of different areas. And this question was inspired by a couple of things. One was you were featured in a Wall Street Journal article where you talked about civil rights 3.0. So would love for you to talk to us a little bit about what that means. And then next, I'm just going to give you the preview. The next question is going to be about you speaking out on issues like SB 202, the new Georgia voting bill, which is close to home for me in my new home. So let's start with civil rights 3.0. What does that mean to you, and what's the role of corporate America in having a voice in civil rights 3.0?
Well, I think they're related to your second question about the Georgia law and what's been happening. So I think I've coined this term civil rights 3.0. Obviously, I'm in the 2.0 at Ariel, 3.0 in civil rights. I thought that the Emancipation Proclamation was the first round. The 1960s with the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act was the second round. Round 3 is at the feet of corporate America. Yeah. Before it was government, it was laws and rules and regulations. And there's somewhat of that happening right now because there's an effort to go backwards. But the issues that we're dealing with and confronting as a society right now, I think corporate America, like it or not, has to respond. And a number of societal issues are there for corporate America. I mean, 5 years ago, we didn't have live shooter drills inside of companies. We didn't have mental health benefits inside of companies. Things have changed. People bring their whole self to work, all of their issues, all of their fears, all of their aspirations. And I think corporate America understands they have to be more attuned to that. And around this issue of race and economic inequality in this country, I think corporate America is in the hot seat. And I think there have been a lot of pronouncements and announcements, as the chairman of Ariel Alternatives, Les Brun, would say. But there's a reckoning, that it won't be enough to just say you're aligned. People are going to hold corporate America accountable. And I think that is material in terms of what can happen on a going forward basis. I think the Georgia law is just one example of that. 72 Black executives came together. It was not my idea. Bill Lewis, Ken Chenault, Ken Frazier. Bill Lewis called me on Sunday and he's like, we're doing this, Mellody. It's tomorrow. I'm like, could you read it to me before I sign? And of course, I was all in. I said, what can I do? Can I help pay for it? Not for credit, but I just wanted to make sure we all should be chipping in. And there was a statement about we can't sit back and we have to say to corporate America, this is not acceptable. I think all of us have to understand we cannot live in our own comfort. We cannot be satisfied with what we've achieved and what we have. It is not good enough when our community is suffering. And I can hold two ideas at once. I know that I have more than I have ever imagined I could have in my life, but I can remember having nothing. And I am constantly battling that in my own head. And so going through this pandemic, I have flashes of I have a 7-year-old, what would it be like if I were 7? Where would we live? What would we do? I have my chest tightens up when I think about what that means for tens of millions of people in our society. And I say to myself, I can't be comfortable. To the extent there isn't a fair opportunity for everyone, it is everyone's problem. This will all come undone at some point. The society won't be able to exist like this. And so I'm committed to not just like having what I've gotten and saying I'm good, but more saying, what can I do to move this forward? And I think that is true of so many Black executives right now who've had the benefit of success, who are saying there is an expectation that I do something with this power and influence. And I say to people all the time, use your power for good. And some people say to me, I have no power. And I'm like, tell that to Rosa Parks. She just didn't stand up. One would not have argued that she had a lot of power, but she changed in many ways the course of American society with one decision. So I feel that right now, especially with what we're seeing with the reaction in Georgia, some of the corporations that have come out and are now saying, okay, we were too compliant here and too complacent. I think that puts the rest of these states on notice that this is not going to be pleasant.
So, Mellody, that was amazing. If you were holding a mic, I'd say just go ahead and drop it. That was fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic, and it's just amazing how you tie together your childhood experience, which creates a mindset that leads you to a place where you succeed and have influence, and then you can turn around and have complete empathy, right? Now that you are where you are, complete empathy with so many people that aren't in the same place, and have real impact. So thank you. That's all I can say. That's absolutely amazing. Yeah, I mean, my last question is, well, what are some of the changes we've seen in corporate governance over the last 10 years? And I think you spelled it out. Like you are the change, right? You and other Black executives that are speaking up are the change. And yeah, it has been amazing in the last few days to see how some corporations have changed their tune very quickly. So thank you so much for that, and for everything you have done, like as a role model to all of us. And again, thank you for sharing with such candor that amazing journey, because it wasn't an easy one, and people need to understand that. They need to understand that about you. Importantly, they need to understand it about being successful in their own right. People need to understand what kind of sacrifice it takes and how it's earned. And then again, I'll just reiterate what an amazing gift you're giving back to all of us right now. So many thanks on behalf of SEO. Thanks as an old friend, and really you're one of my heroes.
Listen, Ramsey, we go way back, and I have nothing but love and respect for you. I'm excited for your next chapter as a board member now, and the things that you will do. And so many of the people listening, you are the ones who are going to change the world. I mean, we're all going to do this together. Progress is a team sport. So we have to recognize all of us have a responsibility. We can't just sit and complain. As we say at Ariel, we cannot admire the problem. we have to go and do something about it, and we might fail. I live with that I might not be successful in all of these endeavors, but at least, I'm going to try the best that I can. And I don't want to be preachy and making people think that I'm wagging my finger. This is a consequential time in history.
Fantastic. Thanks again. All right. I think that's a wrap.
Thanks.
Awesome.
All right,
Awesome,
good to
Mellody.
see you.
Thank you for your time.